There we go. We're live. You can intro this week.
I get to intro again this week.
Yes.
I introed last week as well.
You did.
We talked about visibility this week, and that means quite a bit of things. I think we were basically focused on social media visibility. So, of course, being a photographer, on Monday we talked about your photos, because shitty photos are a real thing. And it's really, really common for people to just like snap photos on their phone and put it up there and call it a day, with the idea that hashtags can save your shitty photos, but it's not true. And trust me, I know.
Well, elaborate. What do you mean? Meaning that like somebody can take a bad picture and just hope that people see it because they use a certain hashtag mechanism?
You're looking at people, especially on Instagram, because Instagram's such a visual platform.
Mm-hmm.
People are looking for things that are visually pleasing. And if you're posting dark photos or overexposed photos, or the thing that's really in right now is that like light and airy, like bright and pretty and feminine and blah blah blah. But as long as your feed has a cohesive, like it all looks like it belongs together, instead of like took this photo from here, took this photo from here, like one cohesive look, and it's more visually pleasing, than people follow you.
Do you tie that to a particular
Yes. I don't know what you're saying.
No, I mean, if you've got a portion of a marketing idea that you have, do you want to make each segment of your marketing plan different? So say you have a product line. Do you have to make it wildly different per product line, or should you always try and keep
No, I think you should always keep a
running,
just like your vibe, like it's part of your brand. Going back to branding, so you want people to feel a certain way when they scroll through your shit. So like, instead of just like, sometimes people see your photo in their feed, which is not all of your photos, but what if they click to your feed and then they're scrolling through and they're like, oh, it looks like just a bunch of jumbled mess. Like, people want to look through things, and it has to make them feel a certain way. So you have to figure out what your vibe is, and you're all part of your branding, of course.
Do you think the time of day you post photos can... No?
I used to think that, and I don't anymore.
So there's not a particular type of photo to post in the morning?
No. It's just, it varies completely based on what you're selling and who you're selling to. Because some people, there's people that are only on Instagram in the morning. There's
Mm-hmm.
people that are only on Instagram at night. There's people like me that are on Instagram all day. Just depends.
Yep.
There's you go online and you're like, oh, what's the best time to post on blah blah blah, and there's always like 20 different answers on 20 different blog posts. So it's useless information. Just make your shit look good. Your content, like my boudoir thing, I have not shown up in hashtag feeds for about, how long has it been? 2 months now? And I've grown it without hashtags. People care more about your content than your hashtags. Your hashtags cannot save your photos.
Good point. What's the number one question you get asked about branding photos, if you had to pick one?
You gotta prepare me with these questions before time. Number one question about branding photos. A lot of people don't realize that they matter yet.
Okay.
And that's a big one, because it's like just coming in. People don't know the difference between headshots and branding. They think they're the same thing, and they're completely, completely different. But that's where my stock photos come in. I love my stock photos because it's the custom ones. It goes with your brand. I figure that all out beforehand, and it keeps your feed looking nice and pretty.
Cool. Happy feed, happy customers, right?
Happy feed, happy customers. And then Tuesday, I did a thing again because this guy, I don't know, what was your reason you couldn't do it?
My work.
His work. So Tuesday I talked about engagement on social media, which is very, very, very important. You can't just skirt through and think that people are going to come to you if you're not putting anything out. Like, if you want people to see you, you need to go to their page and you need to engage with them and you need to comment and you need to like and you need to ask questions, and then it again adds to your visibility. People that are scrolling through their comments are seeing you and they're gonna click your page because they're like, oh, who's this person? So it's a lot of people don't treat that engagement as like a vital part of your visibility of your brand, and it's kind of sad, but we're all learning.
I think on a platform by platform basis, Twitter's obviously the hard nut to crack.
I know absolutely nothing about that.
Because Twitter is all engagement, so it's choosing who to engage with sometimes, because there's areas you don't want to get dragged into, because a bad mention or a bad retweet can really put you
it's like high school. Twitter's like high school.
It's yeah, you can get into some dark areas on Twitter. That's definitely it's definitely true. Keep away from politics. But yeah, just
says you.
But basically, it just comes down to, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it, really.
Exactly.
And
engagement creates engagement.
And you have to, I think, be consistent is a good one. Like, don't wildly change your output based on your audience. That's definitely not a good look, because people quickly find out if you're not being authentic, which is the best marketing plan.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But yeah, just be. I think the biggest engager on social media right now. I mean, well, apart from the Queen, Kim Kardashian. I mean, she's on.
I thought you were talking about the actual Queen.
I mean, The Rock,
the Queen of England.
The Rock. You go on The Rock's social media. I 100% believe that he's answering all of his stuff. Like, I don't think that's
maybe not all of it, but yeah, he's definitely engaging.
Yeah, and he's
his posts are hilarious.
Yeah, that's he doesn't have to, does he? I mean,
no.
He's way past that, but he understands that the engagement drives the interest, and when you have something to sell, whatever he's got going on, a movie, whatever.
Yeah, then his things sell out in like an hour.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, and he's got so many avenues. But I mean, obviously that's an extreme example, but just go and learn from people. It's like anything in business. If you go and watch the patterns that people use and the wordings and how they present themselves, you'll always get ahead.
My big advice for sure is to only engage on people that you're actually interested in, because what that does is, if you're like forcing yourself to engage with these people and like post comments and like their stuff, then it's going to keep showing up in your feed, and it's not going to show what you're actually truly interested in. You need to engage with your engagement in mind. So you're going to go and you're going to like people that you're going to follow pages that, have something to do that are comparable with your business, that are complementary. Just yesterday I took my media page and I had almost 1,600 people I was following, and I went back through it, and it was from when I was doing weddings and kids, and I had let's just say I got it down to 500 because it was all wedding shit and kid shit, and I don't need to follow that anymore. I don't photograph kids or weddings anymore, so it was just clogging up my feed. So I'm going to replace that now with like local businesses and stuff that's actually going to increase the visibility on my page. Not to be selfish, but that's what you're doing. It's a free platform, so use it.
And you want to use it as a tool. It is a tool. At the end of the day, obviously be social and push the social aspect of it, but I mean, some stuff's just not going to get you anywhere, so you're better off without it. Which brings us roundly into my topic for the week, which was influencer marketing. Really huge topic these days that kind of has its pros and cons, especially in the social media world. I spoke briefly about a few strategies and things to look out for, and kind of mistakes that people make when they're trying to start an influencer campaign. Really, it's an extension of engagement, and that's kind of why we stuck it in with the visibility stuff this week. You are, to summarize it, you are paying somebody else to use their influence to increase your engagement. So on a business level, it is a transaction. And this is really the point I was trying to make throughout my 2 posts. It is a business transaction. So there are certain expectations that come with a business transaction. But where this is a unique kind of medium is that you have to gauge it based on metrics that might not marry up with kind of the money side of it. So if you're giving someone, let's say, $10,000 to run a campaign, that's not the same as paying for $10,000 of ad space. That's not the same as paying for a commercial space. You are trusting that influencer to execute in their particular brand and their particular fashion to bring those people across to see your product or what service you're offering. So
you have to choose them carefully.
Correct. And you have to do research, because your influencer might not have any of the demographic or the followers that you are trying to entice to your product. They might not even be interested in, your brand of shoe or, whatever. So it really is a two-way effort. But once you decide on someone, you really have to let it kind of do its own thing. If you're nitpicky, if you try and push an influencer in a certain way, it just comes across as an ad, and you could have put that somewhere else.
You want it to be organic,
authentic, because that's why those people are following that influencer, because they value their opinion, they value their engagement and their time, and excuse me, there's nothing worse than seeing somebody forcing something out just because there's been a transaction made.
There's a lot of people that do that,
and
all the big people. You
can tell because you'll have a guy who's on Twitter, for instance, and he's a skateboarder, and then all of a sudden he's talking about car parts. It's just not authentic. Like, that guy's never spoke about cars before. He doesn't have any cars in his feed. And all of a sudden he's like, hey, why don't you buy these tires? They're really cool.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work because they don't have those particular people looking at them.
Right.
Like, they have skateboard people. They don't have,
Camera reset. So, I took a picture.
And going back to engagement too, you have to pay attention to that, because if somebody has 1 million followers and they only have an average of 700 likes on each of their page, something's wrong.
Right.
And in this time where everybody can anybody can just go online and buy followers, and a lot of influencers do that, unfortunately, because obviously they want to look like they're more important than they are. But then you look at their likes and their engagement seems off. What's that website they can go to see when the follows go up?
Social Blade.
Social Blade.
Blade. Social Blade.
Socialblade.com.
Gives you a lot of the metrics.
You can just type in their handle, right? Or Instagram.
Yeah, they can do YouTube.
You type it in and it tells you, it like shows you the graph of like followers. So like if you're seeing like this and then you see
yeah, something's
chances
usually up.
are
something's usually up. So again, do your research, because there's a lot of money on the table with this. This is a hugely growing area of business, and I would hate for somebody who's in year 1 or year 2 of doing business that sees this as an opportunity but just picks the wrong person and gets blindsided by somebody that's just not going to perform or give you back the engagement you were looking for. And that's what this is all about. Just choose your battles, do your research, and pick wisely. And see, it's not to say that there can't be cross-platform stuff. Like on Twitch recently, you had Drake come across. He did a stream with Ninja. That was huge. That's a kind of that's intermixing a couple of industries. You know, sometimes it can work, but that's so rare, and that has to be so like on fire in the moment.
Yeah, you have to, like, if you have a baby and family product, or like a you know, you do something for babies. You make rattles or quilts for babies. You're not going to go to a fashion influencer and try and get them to pitch your shit. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Go specifically for whatever niche you have, you go for that. And there's so many fucking influencers nowadays. It's just like they're all over the place. Mm-hmm. You're bound to find a couple thousand of them. Just do your research for sure. What was it? Social Blade?
Social Blade.
Socialblade.com. Check. See the graph.
Yep.
I do that with everyone. Even you.
And speaking of Twitch, it's little areas like that, growing platforms that you can get a pretty decent return, because people are more interested in the growing platforms. They might not be quite so tuned in to what's a campaign, you know. And I've seen a few streamers that have done targeted sections on their streams. I think that's a good return, you know. May not cover all industries, but if you could get a streamer to give you a plug, or a YouTuber, or a podcaster,
or a hat, or like, you know,
because that's something that you can then you can tailor in. Like Joe Rogan does a lot of pre-roll ads for businesses, stuff that might not even be within his sphere. That might be a better option than going for somebody who's just going to blindly plug you on Instagram or Twitter. So there's a lot of options. There's a lot of influencers.
Make sure it's something that the person's going to actually use. Like we said, the organic, authentic response to it. That's what sells things, not people copy pasting.
Right.
Like, didn't that happen with Kim Kardashian or somebody? It happened with somebody. They like copy pasted, just literally copy pasted what they were supposed to say from the brand.
Yes, that did.
And like at the beginning, it said,
please insert your name.
Please write. And then it said that, and they copy pasted the please write part.
Yeah, that's a foul.
People don't care about that shit, because guaranteed she like picked it up and looked at it and was like, okay, that's what I have to do. Like, I'm not gonna actually use it, because who gives a shit? Somebody's paying me $1 million to copy paste what I have to say, and that doesn't sell stuff. It just doesn't work.
I think the other metric really here, and what you have to understand, is that you're playing a numbers game with marketing generally. So you can't expect to reach 100% of anyone's following ever. Like, that's just never going to happen. I think a lot of people go into it thinking, this guy's got 1 million followers. That means 1 million people are going to see my thing. I'm going to get 1 million. No, you're in the 10% at best, and your product return might be 1%, 2%. But you weren't paying for that sale. You were paying for the visibility. If you look at companies like Monster, Red Bull, they have huge marketing budgets where they just give free drinks away all over the country, like hundreds of thousands of cans of drink. And the business sense would say, well, that's crazy. Like, why would you give away that much product for free? It's simply so that someone has it in their hand, somebody sees it in that hand, and that product is visually associated with going to the bar, or, you know, and that's what grows at their sales on the back end, because they know they will sell a lot more drinks by giving away that portion. That's the mentality you have to have. This is a write-off portion of your marketing. You have to write it off and just hope that you're gaining that influence and that traction, so you can then double back later on.
And make sure your contract is solid.
Right. And
always, like remember the woman we saw? I read her thing too. She was upset that she gave product to this influencer, and she took like a crappy cell phone photo that was like horribly lit, and you could barely see what her product was. And she was upset about the fact that she didn't, put more effort into it. And then when she said, since you didn't hold your end up of the deal, I'm going to have to ask you to pay for the product, because it was, I think it was like $80 or something. And then the influencer responded that, okay, she was going to have to give her honest review online about it then. And it's like...
But that's it.
But they don't... I mean, you can't... There's nowhere to, like, review an influencer. Which I think that should be done. There should be, like, an influencer review page. Like a Yelp for influencers.
I don't disagree. I think that there will be...
Well, because they have your balls in a vice. They can say, oh, well, okay, well, if you're going to play like that, I'm going to review you online, because you can't review me online.
But that's the consumer nature of online business.
People are bitches.
Well, no, that's... If you had a product that was bad to begin with, and you're just papering over the cracks by paying a celebrity to peddle it, then you're always going to be found out in the end. You know what I mean?
Well, her product wasn't bad.
I'm just saying, it all comes out in the wash. But as legally, contractually, cover your ass. Make sure you've got everything tied down as far as the money and the expectations, and then just let it go.
Expectation and timeline.
Just let it go.
And then
it will happen.
Authentically talk about it. And if they don't, then you need to find their address, and you need to... No, I'm just kidding. But I can't let things go like that, so I'd probably be like that. I've had it happen to me with photography, and really, I mean, all I'm out for photography is time, but time is money, in my opinion. So I've had quite a few people that were like, oh yeah, blah, 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 tell everybody about it. And then obviously, so it's kind of a bummer, but you have to, it's an investment basically. So you're like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then try something new.
Yeah. So I think that's it for really the visibility portion
visibility
of
week.
Marketing.
And next week we're talking about goals, right? Writing goals.
Forming goals.
Big goals, small goals. I'm going to talk about big goals, small goals.
Yes, and it also feeds into my tipping point program that we will be starting. So, so yeah, that's it, right, for this week. Make sure you add us on all the socials, guys. I'll flash them up. Actually, they're right below us right now. Go add us right there. And we will catch you during the week on Instagram, and right here next Sunday at 9 p.m.
9-ish, depending on if Jack pisses us off next week.
Yep.
That's what you get for having kids and being an entrepreneur, guys.
All right, guys. Have a good week, and we'll catch you soon.